The Youth Employment Agency signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Sports Authority to provide monthly stimulus packages to 1,000 athletes for the next 6 months. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, Mr. Austin Kudia, the athletes would receive a monthly allowance of 500 Ghana cedis as part of measures to support them during this COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Kudia noted that 500 slots had been reserved for the Ghana Football Association, while 400 and 100 beneficiaries would go to the Ghana Olympic Committee and National Paralympic Committee respectively. The Youth Employment Agency has been reviewing its models to financially support athletes who have been hardly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Youth Employment Agency agreed to support 1,000 athletes who continue to suffer without any source of income within this period. The package is meant for only sportsmen and women. The Youth Employment Agency tasked the National Sports Authority to provide the Youth Employment Agency with a list to commence payment, Mr. Kudia added. Professor Peter Chumesi, Director General of the National Sports Authority, lauded the initiative and called on federation heads to ensure only athletes without jobs were put on the list. For his part, the President of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Mr. Benunu Mensah, said federation heads would be allowed to provide athletes to receive the money allowances so they could be held responsible should non-athletes find themselves on the list. Mr. Mensah said his outfit was grateful to the Youth Employment Agency for the gesture which he believed would cushion athletes in these difficult times of the pandemic. The national youth organizer of the ruling New Patriotic Party, lawyer Henry Nana Boakye, has commended Youth Employment Agency under the able leadership of Mr. Sami Ewuku, board chairman, and lawyer Justin Frimpong Kudia, chief executive officer, for investing a whopping 3 million Ghana cedis in young athletes who would represent Ghana at the upcoming Olympic competitions in Tokyo and other international stages. There has been a paradigm shift in government's commitment to the well-being and progression of the Ghanaian youth since 2017. The narrative that existed under the erstwhile Mahama government, where funds meant for youth development were stolen through dubious means. This initiative has far-reaching benefits to athletes in Ghana and would go a long way to make the athletic discipline attractive and rewarding. Players and officials reacted positively to the news that players in the Women's Premier League will soon benefit from the Youth Employment Agency program that will pay them monthly allowances for the next 6 months beginning from July 2020. Gifty Champon of Samira Ladies said she is grateful and appreciates what the Ghana Football Association has done. This even shows that the association has them at heart.
So far, this is the year that I've seen that women football is really going on. Looking at our league for this year, seriously, it has really improved.
Faustina Chireme of Immigration Ladies also said they have heard about the package and she is glad. Ever since women football started, they have not heard any such news. It will help them in so many ways.
Ever since women's football started, news be say that.
Abigail Tewia Mensah of Halifax Ladies also shared her opinion on the package.
It's a motivation for us that better things are going to happen.
Ruth Apia of Police Ladies expressed her excitement about the news, saying women football in Ghana has no sponsorship deals for the teams, so this package will help a lot of players, especially those who take care of their homes.
This is enough for now. At least I'm able to provide some small basic necessities for their parents and maybe their siblings.
Madam Abiba Atta, Executive Council member of the Ghana Football Association, also shared her opinion on the Women's League and the Youth Employment Agency's package for the athletes.
30 players from each team, and each player is going to be paid 500 Ghana cedis for 6 months. It will benefit them a lot. Some of them, women's soccer, we don't have spectators much, and so no money. And this is going to help them a lot.
The Executive Council took the decision to give all 500 slots allocated to the Ghana Football Association to the women's football. The communications team was engaging some personalities in the women's game and beneficiaries of the program. They caught up with the chairperson of the Women's Premier League Management Committee, Mrs. Hilary Boateng. She said 30 players being registered on the Youth Employment Agency and getting allowances at the end of the month is a big deal for most of the clubs, especially when financially it's difficult to pay some of these girls now.
30 players being registered on the Youth Employment Agency and getting salaries at the end of the month is a big deal for most of our clubs, especially when financially it's difficult to pay some of the girls now.
The Ghana Football Association was commended by the National Youth Employment Agency for mooting the idea of seeking assistance from government for footballers during this COVID-19 pandemic.
We are aware of the current pandemic in the world, which is the COVID-19. As an employment agency, we have been monitoring the effects of the COVID on several employment in the country and for that matter, the world. One avenue that has been hardly hit by this COVID-19 is our sports fraternity. I must say it was very refreshing and welcoming when the GFA president, Mr. Kreku, came to see the agency that they needed support for various football activities in the country. In fact, I must commend him and the GFA for bringing such a worthy proposal to the agency for us to look into it, which by its extent, at least we should clap for him. Right. So upon meeting with him, together with the board chairman of the agency, we deliberated on it and also made a further consultation with the Ministry of Youth and Sports.
This is a timely move from the Ghana Football Association and has seen 1,000 slots being allocated to various sportsmen and women through the Youth in Elite Sports for Ghana program for the next 6 months, with 500 of the slots allocated to football. The unprecedented ceremony was witnessed by top government officials, including the Youth Employment Agency Board Chairman, Mr. Samuel Oku, Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, Justin Kudua Frimpong, the National Sports Authority Board Chairman, Kojoban Ajeman, Chief Executive Officer of National Sports Authority, Professor Peter Chumesi, Special Advisor to the Minister of Youth and Sports, Magnus Rex Dankwa, Ghana Football Association President, Ket E.S. Okriku, and Ghana Olympic Committee President, Ben Nunu Mensah. Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, Justin Kudua, singled out the effort of the Ghana Football Association, led by President Ket E.S. Okriku, in their quest to seek support for football players before the Youth Employment Agency decided to rope in other sporting disciplines. Then, the National Sports Authority commenced vetting for the 1,000 selected athletes who are to benefit from the Youth Employment Agency stimulus package following the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The exercise fixed at the Accra Sports Stadium is to verify the authenticity of the selected athletes by the various federations and associations. In all, 500 individuals from women football have been earmarked as beneficiaries. There are 30 registered players each from the 16 women's Premier League clubs, totaling 480, and 20 persons in the league. Other beneficiaries were also selected from the rest of the sporting disciplines. The exercise lasted for 2 weeks. The vetting was to ensure that beneficiaries were genuine sportsmen and women, and that it would also benefit the National Sports Authority to execute necessary documentation for the exercise, which was expected to start at the end of August 2020. The vetting committee was chaired by Mr. Kwame Ban, head of monitoring and evaluation at the National Sports Authority, and would submit his report for payment by the end of the first week of August. On 31st July, the National Sports Authority began mopping up registrants of the special scheme launched by the Youth Employment Agency to start providing the 500 Ghana cedis stipend for elite sports in the country. These followed the completion of the registration of athletes of the various sporting associations and the federations at the Accra Sports Stadium. The scheme, launched a month ago, is aimed at providing 500 Ghana cedis to 1,000 elite national athletes who are not on the government's payroll or have no means of sustenance. The project is also expected to cushion the athletes against the adverse effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which has halted all sporting activities in the country. After the mopping up, the National Sports Authority cleared 886 athletes who have qualified as beneficiaries of the Youth Employment Agency's monthly allowance package. Each qualified athlete would receive a monthly stipend of 500 Ghana cedis beginning August for the next 6 months. The committee set up by the management of the National Sports Authority to vet prospective sportsmen and women eligible to benefit from the sports allowances submitted its report to Professor Peter Chumesi, the Director General. The Director General has subsequently submitted the list to the Youth Employment Agency to process for payment of their monthly allowances soon. The package is meant for 1,000 athletes from all sporting disciplines, but so far only 886 have qualified to be on the scheme. According to the NSA, 1,551 athletes applied for the allowance and they went through the vetting process conducted by the NSA, with 886 getting the green light. Supplementary list of the remaining 114 slots will be submitted later after prospective athletes who have some pending documentation issues have been cleared by the vetting committee. According to the NSA, some of the applicants failed to attend the interview despite provisions made at all regional offices of the NSA across the country to interview prospective applicants. Able Sports category was made up of 35 associations who submitted athletes for the consideration and one individual skating athlete. Skating is not duly registered with the NSA, however, the athlete was considered due to his exploits at the international level. Parasports category was made up of 16 associations that brought a list of athletes who have qualified for the sports allowance, and the women's football team made up of 16 Premier League clubs submitted 31 athletes each for vetting. In all, 348 slots is made available for the able sports, 95 for parasport and 443 for women's football clubs in the country. However, applicants who are already beneficiaries of various forms of institutional allowances, stipends and salaries from state agencies and corporate organizations were not considered for the package. We spoke to some athletes who qualified for the Youth Employment Agency stimulus package about the qualification and the vetting process, and if 500 Ghana cedis is enough to support them. Vice captain of the Ghana Fencing Association team, Welbeck Oliveira Aye, who is a traditional wrestler and a boxer, did not qualify for the Youth Employment Agency stimulus package because he is a government worker and his name is on government payroll. Now the question is 500 Ghana cedis enough to support these athletes in these difficult and challenging times for the next 6 months? Highest paid sport in the world is basketball, with an average salary of $4.9 million a year, followed by Major League Baseball with an average salary of $3.82 million a year. But in our part of the world, we can't even quantify what we earn or even attract good sponsorship to sponsor our athletes. Can we build a bigger brand in the sense that when another pandemic strikes, we will not find ourselves wanting?